So my title today will be Malaysia's Sustainable Shift Towards Smart Sustainable Cities and Low Carbon Mobility. Whew, mouthful, right? So how many of you know about low carbon mobility? Hands up. Wow, no one. Wow. Zero awareness. Smart sustainable cities. Anyone? Okay, there's one at the door. Somehow we've reached to you. Right, so the purpose of the talk today is basically to create awareness about smart sustainable cities, low carbon mobility. Who within you, your hometown, that you live at least in a housing development and city? Who lives in a city or housing development? Hands up. Alright, most of you, right? So basically, moving forward, by the year 2030, 70% of the world population will be living in cities. Can you imagine all of us, 7 billion population of people right now, moving forward, 70% of that will be living in cities. How cramped will be the cities moving forward? When you talk about cities, what will be the first thing that comes to your mind? Traffic jams. That's all? Yes, I hear bits and pieces everywhere, yes. So basically, when you talk about cities, the biggest problem with cities is definitely how do you cope living with so many people in the cities, and at the same time, how do you manage low carbon mobility within the city to manage traffic jams and all that. Alright, so the first city that actually got LEED certified, LEED certified green building was actually Taiwan. The first city that got the LEED certified, LEED stands for Leadership in Environmental and Energy Design, green building in the world, was actually the Taipei 101. So basically how they did was, they did it back in 2011. They managed to get the building certified in energy efficiency, energy management. They managed to get it, they have some solar panels installed in the tower, and then they also have rainwater harvesting and anti-earthquake vibration structure. So this is actually one of the tallest and actually the first LEED certified green building globally. But do you know what? Malaysia, our office was actually the first green building office in Malaysia. And who wants to guess what year did we get our first green building certification in Malaysia? Any guesses? Wow, last year really. You're really putting a low expectation. We actually got our first green building certification in Malaysia for this building in 2006, which is actually 5 years before Taipei 101. So, but of course ours is not a silver or platinum, but we're a certified green building. So this is actually our office in Bandar Baru Bangi, Selangor. So basically, if any of you come over to Kuala Lumpur or Greater Klang Valley, you are always welcome to visit us within the office hour, and we'll take you on a green building tour of our office. So basically what we have is that our building is 4 stories. It's curving upwards from, we have a basement, we have a pantry in the basement. Our first floor, our ground floor is actually focusing a lot on the trainings and the seminars that we do, and we have a resource center. The first and second floor is all our officers who are working there. So basically our office, it has solar panels at the roof, it has solar panels at the parking lot for the guests and also for the staff. We have solar panels in our field. We play football in the field, we have solar panels there. Hopefully so far the ball has not kicked on the solar panels. We've got rainwater harvesting on the roof. We've got chilled water pipes flowing under each floor. So our building has no air conditioning, like this hall. Seriously, you have 2 chillers for this hall. This is not energy efficient. But basically, our office, we don't have any air conditioning at all other than our boardroom, other than some of the offices for our chief operating officer. Unfortunately, my office, I have an air conditioning. But the overall building, we just use fans in the building. But you can wear a blazer comfortably in the building because the chilled water underneath the floor provides that cool ambience of at least 24 degrees in our building. Guess how much is our electricity bill? Wow, it's not zero. We're not totally off-grid. But our electricity bill that we pay to TNB every month is about 6,800 ringgit. For a 4-story building complex, 87 people in the building. And we work late. Yeah. And we have charging stations in our office. So you calculate a typical warehouse of maybe, say for example, a pharmaceutical company pays 60,000 ringgit every month to TMB for their electricity bill consumption. Ours is only 6,800 ringgit. Wouldn't you want to be in a green building? Wow, okay, yes, thank you. So this is an introduction about our building. So moving forward, Thomas Edison. Who's never heard about Thomas Alva Edison? Right, good. Google helped a lot, yeah. So Thomas Edison, apart from his creation in capturing sound via phonograph and also gramophone, he also created the first motion picture, camera stills to capture images and also motion picture. He also created the first electricity and power supply systems around. But he also invented the first battery for an electric car back in 1913. So this is the history of mobility in overall. So when you look at this, in 1930, they've already looked upon going into a personal passenger vehicle, and what would be the fuel source for that passenger vehicle. They've already thought at that point in time. So when you look at this, we want to look at a clean technology or green technology future roadmap. When you look at the future roadmap, what will be the items that you want to see? Some of you may also have participated in the Transformasi Nasional 2050. How do you see yourself or the population in the year 2050? A lot of people say they want to see electric mobility. They want to see energy efficiency. They want to see new forms of alternative energy, solar, tidal wave, wind. You want to see a lot more on recycling. There's some people who voted on recycling. You want to see a lot more of, or maybe less of food wastage in the future. You want to see a lot more things that can be utilized, or no more problems to no more water in Malaysia, right? So these are the items that you look at, the components of the future roadmap of the world and also of the cities. So when you look at it, green buildings make a major component of a smart, sustainable city. When you look at a city, the component of the city, people live in buildings, people work in buildings. You spend 8.5 hours to 9 hours in an office later when you go inside the workforce. So, when you spend that amount of hours in the building, wouldn't you want to be in a healthy building? Wouldn't you want to be in a green building? Wouldn't you want to be in an environment where, hey, I know that I'm not putting a lot of carbon footprint on where I am right now. So basically, you look at all these components and you measure across how do you want to do an urban planning for the city. So this is what we do. This is one of the cities that we did planning for the state of Johor. For your information, in Malaysia itself, there's a lot of initiatives that we're doing with the Majlis Perbandaran or the local state authorities in Malaysia. Did you know that there's actually 154 local state authorities in 14 states in Malaysia? How many percentage do you think have adopted a low carbon cities? Any guesses? Come on, one. 52 cities actually. About half of them have adopted low carbon cities in Malaysia. Each city will look at the basic problem that they have in the city. For example, the city of Subang Jaya in Selangor. Their biggest problem was actually waste. In the year 2016, that city alone recorded the highest number of dengue cases in Malaysia. So their biggest problem is actually waste. People who litter, canteen operators in schools or offices not doing their work in proper disposal of food and also waste. So basically what they did was, they were doing a lot of components on composting. They were doing a lot of initiatives that they can do on waste. And then they did a lot of items that they can do to create awareness among the people on waste management. So for example, I'll go through some of the examples later in my talk. When you look at the potential solutions for a smart, sustainable city or maybe a low carbon mobility, you look at the components of a city. Other than the buildings have to be there. It's either going to be a high-rise condominium, it's going to be a low-cost apartment, it can be a land-owned property for the tenants and all that. But there's also the biggest problem of transport in a city. So basically when you look at transport, what we want to do in a low carbon mobility is that we want to have everybody to be included. into the blueprint to be included in the low carbon mobility agenda. 3 years ago, we started to create a blueprint or a roadmap for electric mobility. Then we saw that the Malaysian population, the Malaysians, cannot afford to buy electric vehicle. So what we did was, we revised back the blueprint, we looked at low carbon mobility blueprint. What is the meaning of low carbon mobility? Do you walk? Do you cycle? Do you take public transport?
Yes.
Do you take Grab?
Yes.
Do you try or maybe look to afford a hybrid car? No, okay, wow. Yeah. But basically, all the components that I mentioned, you are trying to be part of the low carbon mobility. When you walk, you are part of the pedestrian master plan. When you cycle, you are part of the low carbon mobility. The agenda for active energy. You're using active energy to transport yourself from point A to point B. When you take the Segway, there's the hovercraft called I.O. Hawk that you just float above the ground, right, in this cool skateboard thing. You are part of the active energy. When you take public transport, you're supporting the agenda that, hey, I can be with these 40,000 people on this, 8 coach going to this one place together. When you take, say for example, the initiative to look into hybrid, the initiative to look for an energy efficient vehicle. There's a lot of vehicles that are energy efficient now. So say for example, you look at vehicles like Hyundai or even the new, I think Axia, right? Peugeot Axia. They're looking at upon, say, a full tank of maybe 50 liters. How many kilometers that you can travel for that 50 kilometers, and how much do you need to pay for the fuel for that kilometer? So this is the area that you can contribute and you yourself can calculate on how you want to contribute. When you take Grab, well now there's no longer Uber in Malaysia. When you take Grab, for example, you are part of the shared mobility agenda for low carbon mobility. So these are the items that we're looking at. There's a company called Bosch. You've heard of the company called Bosch. Bosch provided solutions for urban mobility, as you can see here. So what they did was, they did a rollout in Paris and they did a rollout in Berlin, specifically a place called Kiev in Berlin. It actually stands for Klausenplatz. So when they do this program or this initiative in Berlin, what they did was, they looked at the components of mobility. They looked at how much area that they have to allocate for people to walk in the city, how much area that they can promote O-bike or O-ride or people cycling in the city, how many areas or how many parking lot that they want to do in that city. So when they did the study, they saw that so they did a study, so they did a comparison. Okay, this is a normal alleyway or normal corridor in Berlin. Some people are cycling, but there's still a lot of cars parked beside the road, right? So what they did was, they did another one, looking at freed up parking space. They reduced parking space, and then that parking space in the city, they convert it into areas that people can talk, people can sit in a community and, do something creative. They created more parking space for actually bicycles rather than cars. So this was the study that they did, and they discovered that people adopt and people want to implement this. So these are the areas that we're looking at for Malaysia. The next one is that the game changers in smart cities and low carbon mobility, we want to create more cycling and more walking in cities rather than vehicles. If you go into Kuala Lumpur right now, there's already reduced number of parking lots already in the city. They're converting some parking lots to do some awareness on products. They're converting some for charging stations in Kuala Lumpur. So you can see that cities like Shanghai, for example, people are cycling. Some cities even in the Norwegian countries or Nordic countries, they're like totally banning cars going into the city. They're promoting cycling and walking. And of course, we're looking into electric vehicles. Some cities or some countries have already pledged no more internal combustion engine going to be driven in their cities. For example, China for 2030. There's cities, for example, like in Denmark and Sweden by 2024. No more internal combustion engine where you have, the normal vehicle with an engine and you fill up fuel and all that, no more. They're looking at electric vehicles in totality. So moving forward, when you look at the comparison for a street space for 60 people, you compare if the 60 people drive the car, or you compare 60 people going on a bus, or you compare 60 people cycling or walking, you can see the vast differences that it can do to the city. And be reminded that each one would emit a different carbon emission. When you drive, or when you walk or you cycle, 0 carbon emission. When you take the bus, if the bus is taking biofuel or Euro 6, less carbon emission. But maybe say for example a metro bus, that'll be bad. So for example, if you take a normal car versus a hybrid car or maybe electric vehicle, completely different in terms of carbon emission. So this was a story that I want to share for you in Melaka. What we did was, we did a carbon calculation for the state of Melaka. We said to Melaka, you want to do a low-hanging fruit initiative or you want to do a high-impact project? Melaka very tahu, don't mess with Melaka. We want to do a high-impact project. Okay. So high-impact project, they looked at the Melaka River. The Melaka River was dirty when we first went into the project. It was like, fish was dying, there was a stench that came from the river, somewhat like the river here, I guess. You can look at all the fish eating rubbish, plastics floating in the river. So we did this. So what we did was, we advised the state government of Melaka, why not deploy green technology and biotechnology to clean up the river? You do a little bit of investment, you invest in buying these technologies to be deployed in the cleaning of the river, storm control, pollutants control, you do geowater detubing, you do activated sludge treatment. Okay, these are very technical, but anyway, you do all this and you will get your returns within 3 years. Return of investment. They've got the kampung water in the middle of the Melaka River, they got the duck that goes in the river on a cruise, right? There's a shopping mall called the Shore, the hotel, they got the boutique hotels along the river that you can just stop and have a nice dinner. So they did a little thing in looking at the river, and it has already returned their investment for 3 years, within 3 years, for their tourism. So the message is that, look at all around you. It's happening in Malaysia. The problem statement, climate change. Climate change is happening in Malaysia. There was a week in January this year that there was no sun in Malaysia. Kuala Pilah was like recording 15 degrees Celsius. And they're calling themselves like Pilah Delphia. Seriously. So it's like, you look at that, climate change is here in our shores. It's not about some, iceberg or anything else. It's like you don't have the sun for 1 week, you're going to go to the laundromat. You're going to dry your clothes in the dryer. More carbon emission. So basically, look all around you, there's things that we're doing in Malaysia already. We've got charging stations, 200 overcharging stations in Malaysia. Petronas has been our partner. We've got our other partners as well, site owners and all that. We've got a charging station in section 13 Subang Jaya, that the charging station looks like a fuel pump. You can pump a bus, you can pump a Tesla, or you can pump an electric scooter. You choose which pump that you want. And these are all over Malaysia. Last but not least, I wanted to highlight about the women, the ladies here. You are the future entrepreneurs of Malaysia. It's the year for memperkasakan wanita. It's all about women this year, for 2018. So, the hijab that I'm wearing today was actually from plastic bottle. The plastic bottle was, we have a local technology, a company that does it, that converts it into flakes, that converts it into pellet, that converts it into nylon or polyester yarn, and produce into clothes. We've got blazers, we've got skirts, we've got hijab, we've got, sports attire, corporate shirts. The company can do it already in Malaysia. So what I'm saying is that you have the opportunity to look into future solutions, into green. You can do green initiatives yourself, like Don't Litter. You can also look at supporting the government and also the companies in Malaysia in going for green and sustainable. So with that, I end my speech for today.